Co-founder, founder of readtovote.org. He is here in our studios. As always, we love having you here.
That's great to be here.
Everything good?
Everything's fantastic.
How's everything going in the social media world?
The magazines come out next week.
Fantastic.
We're thrilled. We're over 14 million subscribers now.
Excellent. We will look forward to talking more about that when that happens.
Fantastic.
Great. And we've got Ford O'Connell, who's chairman of the Civic Forum PAC and co-founder of Project Virginia in our D.C. bureau. Great to see you again. How are things in your world?
They're going all right. Well, I'm watching this Christie stuff just like everyone else, Uma.
Okay, so let me start with you on this. I mean, first of all, you heard the soundbite earlier that we've all heard before about what do I have to do to convince you short of suicide that I'm not going to run. How is this going to play with his constituents back home should he decide to get into the race?
I mean, he's really kind of boxed himself in, but I understand why a lot of Republicans are asking him to run, because what a lot of Republicans are saying is, hey, we don't trust Mitt Romney, and frankly, Rick Perry stumbled out of the gate with poor messaging and poor debate performances. I think Christie really wants to fix the Garden State, but who knows? He may actually get the calling, you know, the way things are panning out right now, but I know that he really wants to win re-election and beat Cory Booker, who's a very talented politician himself back in New Jersey. So I guess it's a wait and see, Uma.
It is a wait and see, but Eric, I mean, you know, people are pretty jaded right now, the voters, and they've heard all kinds of declarations by politicians in the past saying, you know, I'm not going to do this, I'm committed to helping the people of my own home state or my own district, et cetera, et cetera. And then when the pressure mounts to get in, most of the time they do get in. And in this case, we are hearing that this is a very serious consideration from his close friends who are saying he is really thinking very hard about doing this.
Look, I don't know him. I don't know anybody who works for him. He seemed very definite that he wasn't. Then again, we've seen other politicians, you know, read my lips. You know, I did not sleep with that woman. Politicians say one thing and they end up doing another often, not to compare any of them. But it's getting very, very close now for him to make a decision. And the reason that everybody, at least in my opinion, that the Republican Party is so interested in him is nobody is emerging as the front runner. Every week it's somebody new. And we talk about it every week. Somebody just, I mean, Perry, he botched the debate. He
may have botched this debate, but there are going to be a lot more debates come, you know,
sure,
in the future. And, you know, the average voter, I think, Ford, still has not been engaged in this election process. There are a lot of people, sure, who are fascinated by, apart from the journalists and the pundits, et cetera. But I really kind of think that people are really focusing about how to keep their own lives together before looking towards the next election, which is still over a year away. What do you think?
Well, Uma, I think you make a great point. I don't think a lot of folks are tuned in, but I do think, you know, back to Eric's point, there is some hesitation with Mitt Romney, and there's a lot of hesitation with Rick Perry. And I think if I'm Christie, what I'm really looking at here is, obviously, since George W. Bush is probably the only Republican nominee in the last several cycles who has not run for the position before and won the nomination. You're talking about building a large corporation over 250 days and taking on a very skilled campaigner in President Obama. It takes a lot of fundraising effort and it takes a lot of interest, and you've got to be in for the long haul. We saw this with Haley Barbour. Haley Barbour is the type of person who could run an organization, do the right things, and could beat President Obama, but even he knows that it's an 8-year commitment. You're asking a lot of Christie here to make a decision before the ballot access deadline.
Well, you know, 2 points to that. One is if I recollect correctly, Clinton, when he won his first term presidency, he was not a candidate as of this date now. So it is possible to do. But the second point, which I think is enormous, is the machine that Obama has built to run for office is seriously, I mean, it may be insurmountable. And the number of days that whomever the Republican candidate is, that's going to have to match Obama in the same way. They're going to have to organize in the same way. They're going to have to get their message out in the same way. That's going to be real tough to do.
Okay, but organization or not, if the economy still remains where it is today, and if situations hold where people are still, there's a high percentage of unemployment, et cetera, it will be a bit easier, I think, for an opponent to take on the president, whether or not they have the same type of organization in place. Or not. I mean, what do you think, Ford?
Better be.
Uma, agreed. Let me hop in for 1 second. The hardest thing for Christie really is going to be to get through the Republican primary, because on paper he looks like a great candidate, but we just don't know a heck of a lot about him. And frankly, as we've seen with a lot of Tea Party and social conservatives, they can sour on you very quickly. So it's not just building the organization against Obama. It's having having the right messaging, as we've seen with Rick Perry, and performing well in the debates. Obviously, Chris Christie's a talent, but let's remember, the New Jersey governorship was his first election, and now we're throwing in the man against President Obama and the Republican, primary. You're asking a lot here.
You really are. And I think it's interesting, too, because we heard this chorus of Republican establishment types calling for Rick Perry to get into it, and we heard about speculation for 6 weeks to 2 months ahead of time whether or not he was going to get in, thinking about it, et cetera. And everybody thought he walks in, it's all over, But of course, as you pointed out and Forrest pointed out, he has stumbled a bit in his first weeks on the presidential campaign trail, and yet again, it is just one of the first early debates. I mean, he may get his act together and really can take charge and go forward with,
sure, it's
in
an
a
early
big
debate.
way.
This is a long game. I mean, it's a long game. Doesn't mean there's a lot of time to, get yourself organized and get your act together to run. But this is going to go. I mean, the polls are going to change every week. Michelle Bachmann 1 week, Perry 1 week,
she's on the cover of Newsweek
Romney,
1 week, and now she's at the bottom of the polls.
I mean, I'm going to say this right now. While he won a straw poll, he doesn't have a shot, and he will be out soon. And I keep saying this about different candidates, and it keeps happening.
But I do remember when McCain was considered a long shot, and he was traveling by himself on commercial jets with not a lot of press people around him, even towards December of the year before that election. And I know that people were so surprised as the primary started happening, McCain started winning, and it was a whole different story.
Uma, I was part of the McCain campaign, so I know what you're talking about. But saying that, though, remember, John McCain had been through this rodeo once before.
True.
And John McCain knew that if he could pick up the Florida straw poll, he knew if he could do well in New Hampshire, he knew that the money would start coming in. And frankly, he brought in Mark McKinnon to do a heck of a job on messaging. And I think that, that's where we're seeing a Perry stumble. Is his messaging is so terrible right now, it's causing him to drag down. If he doesn't clean it up by those Las Vegas debates, he may be in real trouble, because remember, a lot of people again don't trust Mitt Romney just yet, but he's really built for the long haul. And with our new primary rules, the one thing I can guarantee you is that if Mitt Romney doesn't win the nomination, he'll be the last person out.